Welcome back, everybody. Today's deep dive is all about laughter
Ooh, fun.
and its purpose,
Wow.
but with a twist.
All right.
We'll be exploring laughter through a collection of jokes featuring
Oh, wow.
the legendary Mulla Nasrudin.
I like it.
Yeah, our source material is this book called 202 Jokes of Mulla Nasrudin.
Okay.
And it also has some commentary from Osho on the philosophy of laughter.
That's really interesting because, we often just dismiss humor as kind of lighthearted entertainment.
Right.
But with Nasrudin's jokes, there's always that deeper layer, right?
Yeah.
That wisdom and that social commentary that just makes you think.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I was reading the intro by Osho, and he makes this point that only humans laugh. Like, animals don't laugh, trees don't laugh, so
Yeah.
what makes us so special?
Well, Osho argues that it's our capacity for boredom.
Boredom.
Yeah.
Oh.
Animals, they live in the present moment,
Mm-hmm.
accepting life as it is. But we humans, we've got these big brains, and we're always analyzing, searching for meaning, purpose.
Yeah.
And that can lead to this kind of existential dread of, is this all there is?
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right.
That Sunday night feeling when the weekend's over and it's back to the grind. It's like this universal human experience of, oh, here we go again.
That's it. And Osho suggests that it's actually this feeling of emptiness,
Okay.
this boredom with the routines of life.
Yeah.
That's the breeding ground for laughter. Like, we need a release valve to shake things up, to kind of see the absurdity of it all.
So jokes become like a way to disrupt our expectations, to introduce this element of surprise and illogic that makes us laugh.
Precise. I mean, think about how a joke works.
Right.
It sets up a scenario, creates tension and expectation, and then bam,
Yeah.
the punchline.
Yeah.
Right. It delivers this twist that breaks our logical thinking, and then we laugh.
Right, that release of tension. Okay, so let's look at a specific example from the book.
Okay.
The very first joke, actually.
Right.
About Nasrudin going to a psychiatrist.
Yes. This is a good one.
So he's asking the psychiatrist to split his personality because he's lonely.
Interesting.
Now, on the surface, is just kind of silly, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's something deeper going on there.
Well, for sure.
Is it a commentary on our desire for connection?
Yeah, could be.
Our tendency to kind of look for external solutions to internal problems.
Yeah, it could be a commentary on how we overcomplicate things, right?
Yeah.
How we sometimes seek validation or fulfillment in ways that ultimately don't address the root cause of our unhappiness.
Right, like we're looking in the wrong place.
Exactly. And it also plays on that idea of splitting ourselves to meet the demands of modern life, right? Work, family, social obligations.
Yeah.
It's like we're all a little fragmented.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And it's interesting that he frames this very personal existential problem as a medical issue.
Yeah.
Like he goes to the psychiatrist for a cure.
Yeah, yeah.
So is he satirizing the field of psychology itself?
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
Or it could be a commentary on how we kind of medicalize everything these days. Like we want a quick fix, a pill, a therapy session to address these deeper issues that might actually require more introspection and self-awareness.
It's making me think, is this joke also a subtle critique of social expectations? Because maybe he's so lonely because he doesn't fit into conventional social norms.
That's a great point, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Nasrudin is often portrayed as this outsider,
Right.
nonconformist who doesn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
And that outsider status allows him to kind of see the absurdity of societal rules and expectations.
Right, like he's got this unique perspective because he's not bound by those rules. Okay, so we've got this idea that laughter is a release valve for boredom and a way to disrupt our expectations.
Yeah.
But then Osho also categorizes laughter into 3 different types.
Yes, he does.
And I think these types are important to distinguish because not all laughter is created equal.
Absolutely, yeah. The first type, unfortunately, the most common, is laughing at others.
Okay.
This is the mean-spirited laughter.
Right.
Motivated by a sense of superiority or even cruelty.
So making fun of someone's appearance?
Yeah, that's a good example.
Or gossiping about a coworker behind their back.
Exactly. It's about putting someone else down to make yourself feel better.
Right.
And it doesn't really offer any real release or insight. It's just kind of a way to mask insecurity.
Yeah, there's no sense of self-awareness there or growth in that kind of laughter.
No, the second type is laughing at yourself.
Okay.
And this is much more evolved. It requires self-awareness, humility, and the ability to not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I think we all have those moments where we do something clumsy or make a silly mistake.
Yeah.
And instead of beating ourselves up about it, we can choose to laugh at the absurdity of it all. It's like, oh, that was so me.
Right.
You know?
It's a sign of maturity.
Yeah.
Self-acceptance, it shows that you're comfortable with your own flaws.
Yeah.
Your own imperfections.
All right, so we've got laughing at others, which is negative.
Yeah.
Laughing at ourselves, which is positive.
Yes.
What's the third type?
The third type Osho calls cosmic laughter.
Cosmic laughter.
Yes. It's the highest form of laughter. It's the ability to laugh at the absurdity of existence itself.
Whoa, okay, that sounds pretty deep.
It is.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, imagine watching a Rube Goldberg machine.
Okay.
Where all these elaborate, seemingly unrelated events lead to a very simple outcome.
Right.
It's ridiculous, it's over the top, and yet there's a kind of beauty and humor in the complexity of it all.
I think I'm starting to get it. It's like recognizing the grand scheme of things, the interconnectedness of everything, and finding humor in the seeming randomness and chaos of it all.
Yes, that's it. It's about detaching from our ego, from our limited perspective, and embracing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And that detachment allows us to see the humor, the irony, the cosmic joke that's playing out all around us.
So where does Mulla Nasrudin fit into all of this?
Well, I think Nasrudin really embodies that second type of laughter.
The laughing at yourself.
Yes, laughing at himself.
Okay.
He's always the one making the blunder, the one with the flawed logic. And by making himself the butt of the joke, he kind of gives us permission to laugh at our own foibles.
It's like he's saying, hey, look at me, I'm a mess, but it's okay to laugh at it.
Right. And in doing so, he disarms us.
Yeah.
He makes us feel less self-conscious about our own imperfections.
And by laughing at his mistakes,
Yeah.
we can learn from them without judgment or shame.
Exactly.
So are you saying that Nasrudin is actually a wise fool using humor to teach us these valuable lessons about ourselves and the human condition?
I think that's a brilliant way to put it, yes.
Wow.
He's a master of satire, using humor to expose our hypocrisies, our illogical thinking, our attachments to things that don't really matter.
And through that laughter, we can hopefully gain a little bit of wisdom and perspective.
Absolutely. We can learn to detach from our ego, to see the humor in our own mistakes, and to approach life with a lighter heart.
So with this understanding of laughter as a tool for wisdom, let's dive into some specific jokes from the book and see what insights we can glean from Nasrudin's hilarious antics.
I'm ready to laugh and learn.
Me too.
You know, as we kind of dive into these jokes, it strikes me that Nasrudin isn't just making us laugh.
Right.
He's actually holding up a mirror to society, poking fun at our institutions and social norms.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the recurring themes that really jumps out at me is marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So many of these jokes revolve around those dynamics between husbands and wives.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, marriage, with all its complexities and contradictions, is just fertile ground for humor.
Like in joke number 19, where Nasrudin suggests to his girlfriend that they do something different for a change.
Oh, I remember this one.
And when she asks what he has in mind, he's like, you try to kiss me and I will slap your face.
It's such a brilliant subversion of expectations.
Yeah, I know.
Like, we're primed for a romantic gesture.
Totally.
And then, bam! He throws in this absurd, almost violent twist.
I know, and it's hilarious.
Yes.
But it also makes you think about those power dynamics that can exist in relationships.
For sure.
Like that push and pull, the need for control, the fear of intimacy.
Yeah, and it's not just romantic relationships. Joke number 24.
Okay.
Where he tells his girlfriend's father that asking for his consent to marriage is mere formality.
Right.
That also highlights the power dynamics within families.
And then when the father's like, well, where'd you get that idea? He goes, naturally, from your wife, sir.
It's so subtle.
I know.
But it speaks volumes about these unspoken tensions and power struggles that can exist between husbands and wives.
Yeah.
And how those dynamics play out within the family structure.
Like he's saying that true power often lies with the person who appears to have less of it.
Interesting.
You know, like the quiet observer who sees everything.
Exactly. And it reminds me of that Sufi saying,
okay,
the wise man learns more from his enemies than a fool from his friends.
Mm.
Nasrudin, in his own way, is showing us how to observe
Yeah.
and learn from the dynamics around us.
Okay, I have one more marriage joke I want to share before we move on.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's joke number 39, where Nasrudin keeps copies of all the letters he writes to his wife.
Oh, yes, I like this one.
And when he's asked, like, oh, is it to avoid repeating yourself?
Yeah.
He goes, no, to avoid contradicting myself.
It makes me think about how carefully we craft our words in relationships, you know?
Yes.
Especially when we're trying to avoid conflict.
Totally. It's like he's highlighting that universal fear of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Of upsetting our partner.
Right, but instead of presenting it as this serious dilemma,
Right.
he turns it into this hilarious commentary on communication.
It's almost as if he's suggesting that contradiction is inevitable in any relationship.
Interesting.
Like we're constantly evolving, changing our minds, trying to navigate different perspectives.
Right, and rather than trying to present this perfectly consistent image of ourselves,
Yeah.
maybe the key is to actually embrace that inherent contradiction,
Right.
to accept that we're all a bit messy and flawed.
It's a good reminder to not take ourselves too seriously in relationships, to allow space for mistakes and growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of things we shouldn't take too seriously, let's talk about money.
Ooh, money.
Nasrudin has a lot to say about that too.
He does.
Money, or rather the lack of it,
Right.
seems to be a recurring theme.
Yes.
He's always coming up with these schemes to get out of debt or make a quick buck.
Like in joke number 8.
Yes.
Where he bets this stranger that he can fire 30 shots at a target.
Yes.
And call each shot correctly without waiting for the marker.
I love this one. So he proceeds to fire each shot and announce miss.
Right, and the stranger's getting confused.
Totally.
Points out that he's not even aiming at the target.
Yeah, and Nasrudin's like, sir, I am shooting for that 10 spot of yours, and I am calling my shot as promised.
Brilliant.
I know.
He finds this loophole in the bet by using a literal interpretation of calling the shot
Yes.
to avoid actually hitting the target.
He's like a master manipulator, finding ways to bend the rules without technically breaking them.
Right, and it speaks to our own desire for shortcuts.
Yeah.
Our tendency to look for the easy way out. But just like Nasrudin's schemes, they often backfire.
Right.
These shortcuts rarely lead to any real fulfillment or lasting wealth.
It's a reminder that true wealth comes from hard work, integrity, and a willingness to play by the rules.
Yeah, and maybe it's also a commentary on the absurdity of our economic system itself.
Okay.
Like how we place so much emphasis on money and material possessions.
Right.
When true happiness often lies in simpler things.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another money-related joke that I think speaks to that idea of finding happiness in unexpected places.
Okay.
It's joke number 63 about Nasrudin's house being located right on the U.S.-Canadian border.
Ah, yes.
So a committee is appointed to figure out which country it belongs to. And when they finally decide that it's in the United States, Nasrudin jumps for joy.
I love it.
And shouts, hurrah! Now I don't have to suffer from those terrible Canadian winters.
It's hilarious because, of course, the weather doesn't actually change.
Right.
Just because a committee drew a line on a map.
Exactly. But for Nasrudin, that perception of change is enough to shift his entire outlook.
It's like he's saying, hey, life is what you make it.
Yeah.
If you choose to focus on the positive, even if it's just a matter of perspective, you can find happiness anywhere.
And sometimes that shift in perspective can be as simple as finding something to laugh about.
Exactly. Laughter can be a powerful antidote to fear, to negativity, to despair.
Yeah.
It allows us to detach from our problems.
Right.
See the bigger picture. Find joy in the midst of chaos.
You know, as we're talking about this, I'm realizing that these jokes aren't just funny stories. They're actually profound teachings disguised as humor.
I completely agree. He's using laughter as a tool for spiritual growth, for helping us to see the world in a new light.
And maybe that's the ultimate lesson of Mulla Nasrudin.
What's that?
That wisdom and humor aren't mutually exclusive.
No.
In fact, they can be powerful allies.
Absolutely.
In our journey towards enlightenment.
Well said. And perhaps that's why his stories have resonated.
Right.
Across cultures and centuries. They tap into something very universal within the human experience.
Right.
our need for laughter, our search for meaning, our desire to connect with something greater than ourselves.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple jokes can spark such deep conversation.
I know, right?
It's like each one is a little puzzle box with all these layers of meaning to unpack.
I think that's the beauty of Nasrudin's humor, you know?
Yeah.
It works on multiple levels.
Right.
On the surface, it's entertaining, lighthearted, but beneath that surface, there's this profound wisdom that challenges us to kind of question our assumptions and see the world from a different perspective.
You know, it's making me wonder if part of Nasrudin's enduring appeal is his ability to make us feel less alone.
Oh, interesting.
In our human foibles.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
He shows us that it's okay to be flawed, to make mistakes, to not have all the answers. And in doing so, he creates this sense of shared humanity.
Right.
This feeling that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
Stumbling through life, trying to make sense of it all.
He normalizes imperfection.
Yeah.
Makes it something to laugh about rather than something to be ashamed of.
Exactly. And that's such a liberating message.
Yeah.
Especially in a culture that often values perfection and success above all else. Nasrudin reminds us that it's okay to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
To embrace the messiness of life.
Right.
And to find humor in our own imperfections.
And maybe that's the key to unlocking that cosmic laughter that Osho talks about. It's not about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about accepting the absurdity of existence and finding joy in the journey.
Yeah.
Even when it's messy and unpredictable.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about letting go of our need for control, embracing the unknown, and finding humor in the cosmic dance of life.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Mulla Nasrudin, what's the one takeaway you hope our listeners will carry with them?
I would say this. Embrace laughter.
Okay.
Not just as a form of entertainment, but as a tool for wisdom, for growth, for connection.
Yeah.
Look for the humor in your everyday life, in your relationships, in your struggles, even in your own mistakes.
Right.
Because in that laughter, you'll find a sense of freedom, perspective, and perhaps even a glimpse of enlightenment.
You beautifully said. And if you're looking for a guide on this journey of laughter and self-discovery, I highly recommend checking out the full collection of Mulla Nasrudin jokes.
Good one.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of wisdom, wit, and timeless humor that will surely brighten your day and expand your mind.
And remember, as Nasrudin would say, if you can't laugh at yourself, life is going to seem a whole lot longer than it really is.
So true. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of laughter.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep laughing, keep learning, and keep exploring.